I know you went to school in Minneapolis, correct, for music?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went to an audio production school there, and it was definitely like it was a difficult conversation to have with, especially with my mom, but about not wanting to go to college, like a university, and because that's sort of I think it's a little more open to understand that like that degree doesn't mean success anymore. But back then, it was definitely still in a transitional phase, and some people would still say you got to go to college and get your degree. But I was pretty adamant about not doing that. I just saw that as a distraction from what I wanted to do. I saw it as like taking a 4-year break away from starting my career that I really wanted. And I wasn't at all interested in going in, being in debt or spending a bunch of time learning a bunch of stuff that I was never going to use in my life. And I was really adamant about that. I was really adamant about that in high school too. Which I gave my teachers, hell, if it wasn't like English class or gym, I wasn't really into it at all, but we had this conversation. And so what I found that there were schools that you could go to for recording where you could get like a certificate type degree. So I ended up getting an associate's degree, and that was kind of like our compromise. Like I would go to an organized school, but I wouldn't spend 4 years taking a bunch of classes that I didn't need to take. I'd be focused on what I wanted to do and be able to just really dive in and start my career. So I found a school in Minneapolis that was it was a smaller school. They had a bunch of studios in the facility, which intrigued me because I felt like it would give me access to a lot of different types of equipment and stuff. And they told me, yeah, you get this degree, you get these certifications in this software, and then you graduate, you do an internship, and then you start working in the industry, and you can make records, for a living. And they definitely sold me on this idea that you just got to go to school and get a degree, just like other industries, and then people just hire you, which is not what happened at all.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess what were some good benefits? Because I know you had a lot of, from what I've heard, that you've had a lot of great access to equipment at this school, so you were able to check out diverse pieces of equipment, learn new things. Like, what was a good positive takeaway that you had from the audio production school that you went to?
The biggest benefit is access to equipment. And so when people ask me like, hey, should I go to an audio school? I think the first thing is to make sure that you're going to have access to the equipment, because some schools only give you access to the studios when you're working on a class project, and then they have so many students that there's never time to book, and so if you don't have access to that hands-on experience, you can learn everything else on YouTube. I can buy all the textbooks that I had at that school. I can watch all these videos and hear expert people giving me the same lectures that I was given at the school. The advantage was having access to the equipment, in my opinion, and in my experience. But it also depends on how you learn. Like I was so passionate about learning this stuff that I was going to figure it out one way or another. Now, some people might be in a position at that age where they need a little bit more organization. Luckily I had my mother who instilled in it to me to be organized and accomplish tasks and make lists of things and get them done, and so as I started to get towards my adulthood, it was just naturally built into me to have that motivation, I guess, to do it myself. But not everyone has that personality. So for someone that might need more structure and organization, and someone to tell them, hey, you need to show up to this class and you need to do this in order for them to be able to really get into it, then it might be a better fit overall, just beyond the equipment. But I think the first thing to ask is, how much hands-on experience are you going to have? And because they all say, yeah, you're going to have all this hands-on experience, and then you find out that that's with 12 other people in a room, and you don't know what their experience level is or how dedicated they are to it. So you're really like at the mercy of the other people that you're in school with. So the great thing about that school is we had access to the studios, and after class was over, from like 6 p.m. until I think 6 a.m., the studios were open to book, and there were 7 studios on the campus, and we could book them in, I think, like 2-hour or 4-hour slots. And pretty much no one took advantage of that, unless it was like the end of the semester and people were doing like a final exam project. Those studios were empty. Like class got over and that place cleared out. So me and like 3 or 4 other people basically were there every night and just bounced around from one studio to the other. And I went around town and tried to find people that wanted to come in and record. and I could get a mic in front of them and just practice. You know, if I didn't have someone to record, I pulled up a mix on a console. I worked on the patch bay. I plugged in signal through every piece of equipment that I could, and just experimented with things just to hear how it sound, and and compare stuff, and just practiced a lot. And that was definitely like essential, I think, for me to be able to move to a town like Nashville, not be able to get a job or an internship, and then still have a career. I don't think that I would have been able to have the ability to be able to do this on my own if I hadn't had all that time and endless hours in the studio over that year and a half period that I was in school.